Hi, Misha here, and yep, we're doing another video on a Swiss SiG. A little different though. My cousin, he wants to be called Fox, but we all know him as Booch. He's never really fired one of these, and I've debated which one to bring out. And I finally decided on this one right here. The SiG SG-553P ALUS. It comes in the standard case. We have the pistol itself. Yes, it does come wrapped in a plastic bag. I know that might seem silly to point out, but with the expense of these guns, people, they like knowing that there's an extra layer of protection. And then of course this itself comes in a cardboard carton. So you've got quite a bit between the gun and the outside world. Otherwise we have a standard Swiss belt cleaning kit with Alice clip on it. Nothing, it's fine. And it comes with one mag with the top. And that's actually why I picked this gun amongst all the variants for Fox to try out. So let's talk about the specs, and then we'll get to some range footage. So out of the case. And yeah, this is the STANAG version. The name might seem like a mouthful, but it actually makes sense. SG just stands for Sturmgewehr, or at least the Swiss equivalent. 553 is of course the modern nomenclature for the short length gas system. And the AL means that it has an aluminum alloy machined lower. And as I'm sure you've guessed, the US means that it's STANAG, i.e. Ar15 M4 magazine compatible. Hence why it came with one Magpul. Now in the past we've tried out these lowers because these lowers will be modular. They'll fit 550, 551, 552, any in 5.56, 223, or 5.6 GP90 if you want to be all Swiss about it. So in the past we've tried this lower out on a 551, and you've seen mine. I'm mentioning that because we tried several types of magazines. No compatibility issues of note. This lower, it does have an ambi mag catch. It has just a single-sided bolt release still, ambi safety. And we have a fold-down trigger guard, AR-15 style. Use a bullet tip instead of the Swiss folding style. Takes standard Swiss grip, and it has a standard 553 handguard, including mounting holes for rail sections. This is how it comes. Only 20 of these have been imported, and they were kind of a surprise import by SAN Imports, also known as JDI. And these are made entirely in Switzerland by SiG Sauer AG, formerly known as SAN, and before that formerly known as SiG. So SiG, SAN, SiG. My point is it's 100% Swiss made pistol, which if you watch this channel you get. Pretty standard. Again, we have a stamped and welded upper. This alloy lower is still ambidextrous, even though it takes the STANAG mags. Still has the ambi safety, but just the bolt release on the left. We have a flip up rear iron sight that is elevation adjustable. It does have a small aperture, but it is meant to be used. And that's integrated into a welded on standard 1913 rail, i.e. Picatinny rail. And we have ambi sing loops in the back. Moving forward, like I said, we have the short length. You can think of it as a submachine gun length gas system. We have a flip up front sight, again a very narrow blade. This is windage adjustable with an Allen key. Any standard will do. We have a 2-position gas regulator. These aren't really built to be suppressed out of the box. We have a loop under the gas block. This actually has a few purposes and uses we'll talk about in a minute. And since this is the LB variant, we have a 13.7-inch cold hammer forge, but non-chrome lined barrel. This has a 1-in-7 twist, whereas the Swiss military uses 1-in-10. And this is a single piece barrel. I'm sure most of you know what that means, but I get questions every week. That just means this is machined as one single piece, the flash hider. People ask me, is it removable? And I jokingly reply that, yeah, with the saw or torch, anything's removable, but no, don't really cut that off. It is internally threaded, but it's not really intended for a suppressor, silencer. It's really meant for a blank fire device. Can you fit one? There are adapters, but they don't work great. It's just not really meant for suppression. There's other versions and variants for that. The trigger is nominally adjustable with this little stop behind it as well. And this trigger guard does fold down, but it's more Ar15 style instead of Swiss style, using a bullet tip right there. So, kind of a neat gun, and people don't always realize that there is kind of a STANAG NATO version in this series. And I know Fox's preference. For example, he likes the Bren with the 11-inch barrel. He likes the MP5. So I thought this intermediate to short length would be right up his alley. So with that, let's show some range footage, and we'll talk about some customizations we can do to this gun. All right, 553 with the US lower. Hold open.
SG-553.
So obviously, the first mag went fine. It's a Swiss SiG. These are not ammo sensitive at all. Steel, brass, what have you, they'll eat it. And you probably noticed that the gun was a little different. The one we started off with was actually a new one out of inventory. So this is the one we shot's actually a different gun. And I decided to kit it out a bit. So I made a few changes here to kind of make it a NATO compliant version, because SiG actually makes these parts not for the US market specifically, but because they have export customers. True, the Swiss guns, the STGW-07s, they use the Swiss mags, but for export, lots of customers want to use STANAG mags. So this lower has been around for years upon years as an option. Again, it's a modular component, right in and out. Along with that, we have what we use here is an arm brace adapter. Now this brace I just grabbed off the floor, literally threw it on, but the adapter here, what's underneath, I'm going to unscrew this real quick. Well, I'll say real quick, how long are these threads, huh? There we go. This part is actually made in Switzerland, not necessarily for braces, but so that users can use any old Ar15 M4 stock they want. In the US, we use them for arm brace adapters, but for export customers, well, it's just so they can use any Ar15, M16, M4 stock they might want. It fits very well. In fact, they make a version specific for the alloy lower and another version specific for the steel lower, and it fits in the rear and actually still has a push button that lets it fold over. Now you can also install a row pin here, there's a small hole. If you don't want it to fold, you can put that roll pin in and then slide it in and it won't fold. But if you want it to fold, that's an option. Kind of neat, I thought.
SG-553.
Since we're doing the STANAG lower and the STANAG adapter, figured we'd keep the trend on and install a STANAG, i.e. Ar15 Bayonet Lug. Now, of course, there's the standard Swiss lug, the round kind with a notch in it. But for export, and sometimes even for Swiss troops maybe serving abroad, you can very easily put in a STANAG lug. This loop on the bottom here, like I said, has multiple uses, and one of them is it's very easy to swap out bayonet lugs. It's just held in with the roll pin. Another thing is if we had a quad rail handguard, it kind of is used as a forward mounting point for the quad rail, but keeping this light and trim. So I thought, yeah, a STANAG bayonet lug kind of just completes the package. And here it is with the bayonet on. This is that Italian Mirmerlo bayonet. We've shown in several videos, kind of a Tonto style blade. This is what Switzerland sometimes uses, and it actually lines up very well with the flash hider. It's just a really good fit, nice tight fit. Goes on the slug very well and gives it a pretty mean look, in my blind opinion anyway. So that's kind of my NATO package here. But there is one more change that I've done to this gun, and that involves the handguard. So you might notice, depending on the lighting, that these are not the black handguards that you saw in the first one. This did come with black, but actually I needed a set of black handguards for something else, so I took them off. And I put green on temporarily. Interestingly, SiG ships a good number of guns with green furniture and black metal, believe it or not, like those 551s that we had. So yeah, it has different handguards. As for this brace here, it's one I just picked up. I think it's an IWI, nice rubber, but it doesn't really fit on this tube. It's there, it's shootable, as you saw. Even though we didn't shoot with it, going through my stuff, I actually found this. A Shockwave, old school style. Let's put it on. I didn't actually mention the Shockwaves when I did that recent arm brace video. And of course, right after doing that video, I found this one, and I even found an old school Gen 1 arm brace, the old rubber one, but I digress. I thought this might look a little better. Maybe not be as comfortable as this one, but hey, notice it folds. Of course, it doesn't have a way to really latch, but just for transport, and I'm sure you could work something out involving Velcro or a magnet or a bungee, but it doesn't necessarily fold. It's pretty tightly held. But yeah, folding it open. It's a Shockwave with all the pros and cons that entails. But boys and girls, this is kind of what we had before the SBA 3s and 4s came out. And I thought it would kind of match the aesthetic of this gun. Again, needless to say, several members of my family shot it, and no problems. And in fact, there were very many compliments. In fact, I ended up showing Fox there how to take it apart, and he was really impressed with simply how easy it was, straightforward. And these iron sights, believe it or not, are actually more functional than you would think. But since this does take STANAG mags, and since I had the adapter and the bayonet lug, I thought this would be a good introduction to Fox for the Swiss series, and it seems to have done the trick. I kind of figured he wouldn't be as interested in the more classic PE90, SGGW 90s. And we've done several videos on the 551, and I wanted to talk about this 553 ALUS because it is an interesting configuration and a bit of a sleeper. But what do you think about one of these that takes AR mags?
SG-553.
All in all, it was a fun day. And while I've fired a lot of these guns, different variants, they never get old. And we've never actually fired this particular variant on camera. And like I said, very few have come into the country. At this point, only about 20. Who knows if more will or won't. I know that people like the standard Swiss mags from a classic point of view, but going forward, if there's bans, sanctions, who knows, it is nice to know that there are versions that can take a mag that will probably always be readily available. And after all, this is a modern look, all black, especially if you go the brace route. I do like the 13.7-inch barrel. It seems to be plenty long. Basically, when you're not counting the flash hider, it's just under 12 inches, so about 11.9 inches of barrel. And with the 1-in-7 twist and just the quality of Swiss guns, that's enough to deliver perfectly good accuracy at close to medium ranges. Again, no ammo sensitivity. We had no failures throughout the day. You can tell we ran more than a few rounds through it because of this scuff behind the ejection port. I know some people, they don't like that. They put tape there. They do something, piece of Velcro. To me, it's just a badge that shows a gun has been used. It's like the scuff on a receiver from an AK selector, or the little nicks and dings that the brass deflector gets on an Ar15. It's just part of it. But I will say, when Fox first started noticing this happened, he was a little concerned before he realized that was just standard wear and tear on these guys. It's just there. It's a known thing. And that's just chipping off the outer layer. This has this kind of glossy ceramic outer layer of finish, and then below that is still phosphating. So it's not going to be bare metal. And if it was actually a problematic thing, I'm sure all the guns, the 450 some odd thousand in Swiss military service, probably would have noticed some issues with it. It's just kind of part of the design. And I think one of those unique, kind of eclectic parts at that. Like I said, we do a lot of videos on Swiss SIGs here, but I wanted him to experience one, and so I picked one we haven't directly featured before. Let me know what you think. Seems to me, since this isn't a modern tactical configuration, the arm brace doesn't look out of place. And since there's not really a good way to add an extension to the barrel, your options for these are either to SBR them or add a brace. There's not really a good way to make it into a 16-incher and then add the stock from there. Speaking of, one last comment, to install this, just like installing a stock, there's just the rear plate, pop it off, there's a roll pin. This slides on, no gunsmithing required. Could not be easier. And that's about it, folks. Appreciate you kind of hanging out with us, tuning in as usual. Trying to have new things for you. By the way, the bayonet is quite very sharp. But do feel free to comment below, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the link to the Patreon page, trying to drum up some stuff coming into the fall. This is Misha, and also on behalf of Fox, J-Ro, and others, we will all catch you very soon next time.